Commander stood at the viewing window of his flagship and looked down at the blue planet below. Earth, the world his people had studied for 100 years, the world they would conquer today. Behind him, 4,000 warships waited in perfect formation, their weapons charged and their soldiers ready. This was the moment the Empire had prepared for since before was born. He turned to face his officers. Their skin and black eyes reflected the light of distant stars. Every one of them had trained their entire lives for this day. Every one of them knew their role perfectly. The invasion plan had been revised and improved for a full century. Nothing could go wrong. Sub-Commander approached with a data tablet in her hands. She was young for her rank, but her mind was sharp. She had spent 20 years studying human behavior, learning their patterns, memorizing their weaknesses. She knew humans better than any other alive. "Commander, all units report ready," she said. "The humans have not detected our approach. Their satellite network remains primitive. Their radar systems cannot see through our cloaking fields." Allowed himself a small smile. "Of course they cannot. We mapped their entire defense network decades ago. Their technology crawls forward like a wounded animal. They still burn dead plants to power their vehicles. They still split atoms with clumsy bombs. They are children playing with fire while we command the stars." He walked to the central command platform and activated the fleet-wide communication system. His voice would reach every ship, every soldier, every pilot in the invasion force. "Warriors of the Empire," he began. 100 years ago, our scouts discovered this world. They found a species of soft, weak creatures who fought among themselves and destroyed their own environment. They found humans. Across the fleet, soldiers listened in silence. "We studied them," continued. "We learned their languages, their history, their military tactics. We watched them fight their petty wars with explosive projectiles and chemical weapons. We analyzed every broadcast they sent into space. We know everything about them." He paused and let his words sink in. "Today we take their world. Today we add Earth to our empire. Today we show the galaxy that they are the supreme species. Launch the first wave." 200 detached from the main fleet and began their descent toward Earth. Each ship carried 500 soldiers equipped with plasma rifles and energy shields. 100,000 warriors falling toward a planet that did not know death was coming. Watch them go with pride. They would land at 12 strategic locations across the planet. They would disable communication centers, capture government buildings, and establish control zones. Within hours, the humans would understand that resistance was pointless. Within days, Earth would belong to the... Studied her screens with a slight frown. "Commander, I am detecting unusual energy signatures from the planet's surface." "Unusual how?" "I am not certain. They do not match any technology in our database, perhaps natural phenomena." Dismissed her concern with a wave of his hand. "Our database contains every piece of human technology. If something does not match, it is not human. Focus on the invasion." Far below, on the surface of Earth, Admiral Carter sat in the command center of the Global Defense Network. She was 53 years old with hair cut short and eyes that had seen too many battles. Around her, dozens of officers monitored screens that showed every corner of the planet and every object in orbit above it. "Admiral, we have confirmation," said a young officer named Danny. 4,000 alien vessels in high orbit, 200 smaller craft now entering the atmosphere." Nodded calmly. She had known this day would come. 20 years ago, human deep space sensors had detected the observation probes. 10 years ago, they had intercepted and decoded communications. 5 years ago, they had finished building the defense network that would save their world. The aliens thought they were studying a primitive species. They had no idea that humans had been studying them right back. "Activate Protocol 17, ordered. Across the planet, hidden systems came online. Orbital platforms that looked like communication satellites revealed their true nature. Batteries capable of launching projectiles at 1% of light speed, energy shields that could stop plasma fire, quantum sensors that could track a single ship across the solar system. In the skies above North America, Captain Pete climbed into his fighter craft. It did not look like the jets they had seen in old human broadcasts. This craft had no wings, no visible engines. It moved by manipulating gravity itself, a technology humans had developed in secret over the past 50 years. "All squadrons report ready," Pete said into his helmet microphone, waiting for green light. Watched the alien fall toward her world. They came in standard attack formation, exactly as the intercepted plans had predicted. They were so confident in their information that they had not bothered to adapt their strategy. They expected to find the same humans they had observed a century ago. They were about to learn how wrong they were. "All units," said, her voice reaching every defense station on Earth, "weapons free." The first round left its orbital platform at impossible speed. It crossed the distance to the nearest in less than a second. The alien vessel had no time to react, no time to raise shields, no time to understand what was happening. One moment it existed. The next moment it was scattered atoms and burning debris. 46 more died in the next 8 seconds. On his flagship, stared at his tactical display in disbelief. Red icons representing his ships were disappearing faster than he could count. Alarms screamed warnings in a dozen different tones. Officers shouted reports that made no sense. "What is happening?" he demanded. "What are they using?" Worked frantically at her console. Her hands were shaking. "Commander, I am detecting weapons we have never seen. Projectile velocities beyond anything in our records. Energy signatures that should not be possible. The humans, they have technology we did not know about." "That is impossible. We studied them for 100 years. 100 years ago," said quietly. "We studied who they were 100 years ago." Looked back at the viewing window. His were dying. His soldiers were dying. His perfect plan was falling apart in minutes. And somewhere on that blue planet below, the humans he had dismissed as primitive were teaching him a lesson his people would never forget. The invasion of Earth had begun. It would not last long. The skies above Earth burned with falling ships. That had survived the first attack now faced a nightmare they could not understand. Human fighters appeared from nowhere, moved in ways that physics, and struck with weapons that cut through armor like it was paper. Captain Pete pushed his craft through the chaos with a grin on his face. His gravity drive let him change direction instantly, spinning and diving without losing speed. The pilots could not track him. Their targeting systems were designed for ships that followed normal rules of movement. Human ships did not follow those rules. "Fox Squadron, follow my lead," Pete called out. "We have 3 breaking for the coast. Do not let them reach land." His squadron of 12 fighters banked as one and accelerated toward the fleeing aliens. The ships were fast by the standards of a century ago. By modern human standards, they might as well have been standing still. Pete locked onto the lead and fired. A pulse of superheated plasma crossed the distance in a heartbeat and melted through the alien hull. The ship broke apart and tumbled toward the ocean below. His wingmen destroyed the other 2 before they could even attempt to run. 3 more down, Pete reported, returning to patrol zone. High above in orbit, Lieutenant Maria Santos watched the battle from her station on Sentinel-7. The orbital platform was one of 47 that circled Earth, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a small moon. They had flown right past them without ever knowing they were weapons. "Targeting solutions confirmed for the next wave," Maria said. "Ready to fire on your command, Admiral." Carter studied the tactical display in the Global Defense Command Center. The first wave had been almost completely destroyed. Only 23 remained in the air, and human fighters were hunting them down one by one. But she knew this was not over. The main fleet still waited in orbit with thousands more soldiers ready to deploy. "Hold fire on the orbital platforms," ordered. "Let them send the second wave. I want them fully committed before we show them what we can really do." On the flagship, Commander refused to accept what his eyes were telling him. His officers shouted reports of losses that should not be possible, ships destroyed by weapons that should not exist, soldiers dying before they could even land on the planet's surface. "This cannot be happening," he said. "Our intelligence was perfect. We studied every aspect of their civilization." Sub-Commander pulled up data on her screen with trembling hands. "Commander, I am analyzing the human weapon signatures. There are accelerating projectiles to velocities we did not think possible for a species at their development level. Their fighters are using gravity manipulation technology. We believed such technology required another 3 centuries of advancement. Then our scientists were wrong. Our scientists based their predictions on human progress rates from 100 years ago. But Commander, look at this data. Human technology did not advance at a steady rate. It accelerated. Every decade, they developed faster than the decade before. In the last 50 years alone, they made more progress than in the previous 500. Stared at the numbers on her screen. They told a story he did not want to believe. The humans had not simply advanced while they were watching. They had transformed. They had become something entirely different from the primitive creatures his people had dismissed. "Launch the second wave," he ordered. All remaining overwhelmed them with numbers. 800 more detached from the fleet and began their descent. Watched them go with desperate hope. Perhaps the humans would run out of ammunition. Perhaps their weapons would overheat. Perhaps numbers would still win this battle. Admiral Carter saw the second wave coming and smiled grimly. "Sentinel platforms, you are cleared to engage. Show them what orbital superiority means." 47 platforms opened fire simultaneously. Rounds and energy beams filled the space between orbit and atmosphere. Each platform could track and destroy dozens of targets per second. The second wave flew into a wall of death. Maria Santos watched her targeting computer cycle through enemies faster than her eyes could follow. Each green flash on her screen meant another alien ship destroyed. The numbers climbed so quickly they became meaningless. 50, 100, 200. They died in waves, their pilots never even seeing what killed them. On the ground below, the few soldiers who managed to land found no safety. Corporal Jenny led her squad through the streets of Chicago toward a crash. The aliens who emerged from the wreckage expected to face primitive humans with projectile weapons. Instead, they faced soldiers in powered exoskeleton armor carrying plasma rifles. "Contact front," Jenny called out. "Light them up." Her squad opened fire with precise discipline. The soldiers tried to return fire, but their plasma rifles barely scratched the human armor. Their energy shields flickered and died under concentrated assault. Within 30 seconds, every alien who had survived the crash was either dead or surrendering. "Crash site secured," Jenny reported. 12 enemy combatants neutralized, 3 captured. No friendly casualties. Similar reports came in from around the world. Every landing zone told the same story. Soldiers who expected easy victory found instead that they were outmaneuvered and completely unprepared for the humans they faced. Watched his tactical display turn red with losses. 4 minutes had passed since the invasion began. 60% of his invasion force was gone. His perfect plan, refined over a century, had collapsed in less time than it took to eat a meal. "Commander," said softly, "we need to retreat. We cannot win this battle." Did not respond. He simply stared at the blue planet below, the world he had thought would be so easy to conquer. Somewhere down there, humans were fighting with technology and tactics his people had never imagined. Somewhere down there, the prey had become the predator. And they were only just beginning to understand how badly they had failed. 6 minutes into the invasion of Earth, Commander made a decision born from desperation. He ordered every remaining to launch at once. If the humans wanted to fight, he would give them a fight they would never forget. 1,200 vessels poured from the fleet like angry insects, filling the space between orbit and atmosphere with metal and burning engines. It was the worst decision of his life. Admiral Carter watched the massive wave approach on her tactical display. She had expected this. When a plan fails, commanders often respond by doing more of what already was not working. It was a pattern humans had learned to exploit long ago. All defense networks, maximum engagement, she ordered. Do not let a single ship reach population centers. The sky became a light show of death. Rounds streaked upward in glowing trails. Energy beams cut across the darkness like the fingers of angry gods. Human fighters danced between explosions, hunting survivors with cold efficiency. The third wave lasted less than 2 minutes. On the ground in Chicago, Corporal Jenny and her squad moved through ruined streets toward another crash site. This had come down hard, carving a trench through an empty parking lot before stopping against a collapsed building. Smoke poured from cracks in its hull. Something inside was still moving. "Spread out," Jenny ordered. "Standard approach. Remember, these guys don't know what they're dealing with." Her squad took positions around the wreck, their powered armor making them look like metal giants. The exoskeletons gave each soldier the strength of 10 men and protection that could stop most weapons. They had nothing like this. Their soldiers still wore simple body armor and carried basic plasma rifles, technology that had not changed in 500 years. The hatch burst open and soldiers poured out, firing wildly. Their plasma bolts splashed harmlessly against human armor. Jenny raised her rifle and dropped 3 aliens with precise shots before they could take cover. Her squad did the same. In 15 seconds, the fight was over. But one soldier remained alive. He had fallen behind a chunk of debris, his weapon lost, his armor cracked. Jenny approached him carefully and saw fear in his black eyes. Real, genuine terror. "Hold fire," she said. "This one's done." The alien, a young warrior named Seven, stared up at the human towering over him. He had trained for 30 years to fight these creatures. He had been told they were slow, weak, and easily frightened. He had been told the invasion would be simple. Everything he had been told was a lie. The humans moved faster than his eyes could track. They fought with weapons that burned through armor like sunlight through fog. They did not run when outnumbered. They did not surrender when. They attacked with a ferocity that Seven had never seen in any species across a dozen conquered worlds. Jenny knelt beside him and removed her helmet. She had brown hair and green eyes, and she looked at him not with hatred but with something like pity. "War's over for you," she said in accented. The sound of his own language from a human mouth shocked him. "Medical teams coming. Don't fight and you'll live." Seven did not fight. He did not have any fight left in him. High above in orbit, Dr. Henry Park monitored the battle from the Global Defense Command Center. He was a scientist, not a soldier, but his work had helped build the weapons now destroying the fleet. He watched the numbers on his screen with grim satisfaction. 9 minutes elapsed, he announced. 78% of enemy invasion force destroyed or disabled. Human casualties across all theaters total 47 wounded, 3 killed. Admiral Carter nodded but did not celebrate. 3 human deaths were 3 too many, but she knew how much worse this could have been. If the aliens had attacked a century ago, when their intelligence was current, humanity would have died. "What about the main fleet?" she asked. "Still holding position in high orbit. No movement toward retreat yet. I think their commander is in shock." Commander was indeed in shock. He stood frozen at the viewing window of his flagship, watching the last of his invasion force die in the skis below. Everything he had believed was wrong. Every assumption his people had made was wrong. The humans were not primitive. They were not weak. They were not easy prey. They were monsters. "Commander," Subcommander said urgently, "we must retreat. If we stay here, the humans will destroy the entire fleet." Hal whispered, "How did they advance so quickly? We watched them. We studied them. 100 years ago, they could barely reach their own moon." Had been asking herself the same question. She had spent her career learning everything about human civilization, and now she realized she had learned nothing at all. The broadcasts and signals the had intercepted told only part of the story. They showed human conflicts and failures, human pollution and destruction. They made humans look primitive and self-destructive. But they did not show what humans did in secret. They did not show the underground research facilities and the classified projects. They did not show a species that saw the stars and decided to reach them no matter the cost. They did not show human determination, human creativity, human refusal to accept limits. "They hid it from us," said. "They knew we were watching and they hid their true capabilities." "That is impossible. Our cloaking technology is perfect." "Their deep space sensors detected our observation probes 20 years ago. They have been preparing for this invasion ever since. We thought we were hunting them. We were the ones being hunted." Finally turned away from the window. His face showed the exhaustion of a man whose entire world had collapsed. His fleet was crippled. His invasion force was gone. His century of preparation had bought him nothing but death and shame. 12 minutes had passed since the first entered Earth's atmosphere. In 12 minutes, the Empire had lost more soldiers and ships than in any battle in their history. In 12 minutes, they had learned that the galaxy contained species far more dangerous than they had ever imagined. And in 12 minutes, humanity had announced to the universe that Earth would never be conquered. "Signal the fleet," said quietly, "full retreat." But as his surviving ships turned to flee, they found human vessels rising from the planet below. Faster ships, stronger ships, ships that had been waiting for exactly this moment. The retreat would not be easy. The humans were not finished teaching their lesson. Commander gave the order to retreat, but the universe refused to cooperate. As his surviving ships turned their engines toward open space, they found their path blocked by a wall of energy that had not existed moments before. Human orbital platforms had activated containment fields, invisible barriers that stopped engines cold. "We cannot break through," his navigation officer reported. "The barrier extends around the entire combat zone. We are trapped." Felt cold fear spreading through his chest. The humans had not simply defended their world. They had prepared a cage. They had known exactly what they would do and when they would do it. Every move of the invasion had been predicted and countered before it even began. "All ships concentrate fire on the barrier," he ordered. "We must break through." 100 warships fired at once. Plasma beams and missile salvos struck the containment field and accomplished nothing. The barrier flickered slightly and held firm. Human technology had once again proven superior. From her command center on Earth, Admiral Carter watched the trapped fleet with calm satisfaction. The containment field was one of humanity's inventions, a network of energy projectors that could create walls in space itself. They had no idea such technology existed. They had no way to counter it. "Admiral, the alien flagship is attempting to break formation," reported an officer. "Should we engage?" "Not yet. Let them understand their situation first, then offer them a choice." Lieutenant Commander Chris Dawson led the boarding operation against a disabled cruiser. His team of Marines moved through the dark corridors with their weapons ready, stepping over debris and unconscious alien bodies. The ship had taken multiple hits and lost most of its power. Its crew had nowhere to run. "Contact ahead," his point man whispered. "Looks like survivors gathering in the cargo bay." Chris raised his hand and signaled his team to slow down. They approached the cargo bay entrance and found exactly what the sensors had predicted. 30 soldiers huddled together near the back wall, their weapons raised but their hands shaking. They expected to die. They expected the humans to kill them without mercy. Chris stepped into the doorway and activated his helmet translator. Attention personnel. This vessel is now under human control. You have two choices. Surrender your weapons and accept prisoner status, or continue fighting and die. You have 30 seconds to decide. The soldiers looked at each other with confusion. In their experience, conquered species did not offer choices. The strong destroyed the weak. That was how the galaxy worked. That was how the Empire had always operated. One soldier, older than the others, slowly placed his weapon on the ground. He knelt with his hands visible and waited. After a moment, the others followed his example. Within 20 seconds, 30 plasma rifles lay scattered across the cargo bay floor. "Smart choice," Chris said. He waved his team forward. "Secure them and get medical attention for the wounded. These people are prisoners of war, not trophies. Treat them accordingly." They watched in amazement as human soldiers began checking their injuries and offering water. This made no sense. The humans had won. They had proven themselves the stronger species. Why were they showing kindness to defeated enemies? On the flagship, Sub-Commander accessed the intelligence database with desperate speed. She needed to understand what humanity had become in the century since first contact. She needed to find some weakness, some vulnerability, some way to survive this disaster. What she found instead destroyed everything she thought she knew. The humans had not simply advanced their technology. They had transformed their entire civilization. They had ended their major wars and united under a single global government. They had colonized Mars and built research stations in the asteroid belt. They had developed fusion power, artificial intelligence, and medical technology that doubled their natural. And they had done all of this in secret, hiding their true capabilities behind a mask of primitive broadcasts and staged conflicts. The signals they had been studying for a century were lies. Beautiful, elaborate lies designed to make humanity look weak and divided. "Commander," said, her voice hollow, "we were never hunting them. They were hunting us. They have known about the invasion for 20 years. Everything we observed was theater. They wanted us to underestimate them." Stared at her screen, reading the same impossible data. The humans had played his entire species for fools. They had let them believe they were superior while quietly building weapons and defenses that made technology look like children's toys. "Why?" he asked. "Why did they not attack first? If they knew we were coming, why wait?" "I do not know. Their behavior makes no sense. They are clearly capable of destroying our entire fleet. They could have struck our observation posts years ago. They could have followed us back to our and conquered us. But they did not." A communication signal interrupted their conversation. A human voice, translated into perfect, spoke from every speaker on the ship. "Attention fleet. This is Admiral Carter of the Earth Defense Force. Your invasion has failed. Your ships are trapped. Your soldiers are dead or captured. You have no options remaining except the ones we choose to give you." Listened in silence, waiting for the killing blow. "We are offering you surrender terms," the human continued. "Power down your weapons and lower your shields. Allow boarding teams to secure your vessels. In exchange, your crews will be treated as prisoners of war under the Geneva Conventions. You will receive food, shelter, and medical care. You will not be tortured or executed. When diplomatic relations are established with you will be returned safely." The bridge fell absolutely silent. Every officer stared at the speakers as if they had begun speaking in flames. The humans were offering mercy. Real, genuine mercy. Not because they were weak, but because they had already won and chosen not to destroy. Did not understand, but he understood enough to know that refusing this offer would mean death for everyone under his command. "Signal the fleet," he said. "All ships stand down, we accept the human terms." Across the trapped formation, weapons powered down and shields flickered off. The invasion of Earth ended not with a final battle but with a quiet surrender. And somewhere in the Global Defense Command Center, Admiral Carter allowed herself a small smile. They had won, not through superior violence but through superior everything else. 3 days after the invasion ended, Commander walked through corridors he never expected to see. Human guards escorted him through the Global Defense Command Center toward a meeting that would change the future of two civilizations. He had been fed well, treated for minor injuries, and given clean clothes. No one had struck him. No one had insulted him. The humans behaved as if capturing an enemy fleet was simply business, nothing personal. It made no sense at all. The guard stopped at a large door and gestured for him to enter. Inside, he found a conference room with windows that looked out over a green forest. Several humans sat at a long table, watching him with expressions he could not read. Admiral Carter was there, still wearing her uniform. Beside her sat Dr. Henry Park, the scientist who had helped design the weapons that destroyed the fleet. At the head of the table sat a man with hair and kind eyes who radiated quiet authority. "Commander," the man said, rising to greet him. "I am President, please sit, we have much to discuss." Sat slowly, feeling like a prey animal surrounded by predators who had decided not to eat him. "I do not understand why I am here. I led an invasion against your world. I caused the deaths of your people. You should hate me." President smiled gently. "We lost 41 soldiers and citizens in your attack. That is 41 families who will never see their loved ones again. Yes, I have every reason to hate you. But hatred is a luxury that leaders cannot afford. We have a decision to make, and I wanted you to understand it before we move forward." "What decision?" "What happens next? Your fleet is captured. Your soldiers are our prisoners. You does not know what happened here, and we have the ability to reach them before any message you send. We could destroy your observation posts, follow your fleet's course backward, and strike your species before you have time to prepare. Based on what we learned from your databases, your defenses are no match for our weapons. We could conquer your empire in months." Felt cold terror settle in his stomach. He had assumed the humans would simply defend their territory. He had not considered that they might go on the offensive. "Then, why have you not done so already?" "Because we do not want to." Admiral Carter leaned forward with her hands folded on the table. "Commander, you came here expecting to find primitive creatures fighting with ancient weapons. You found instead that we had surpassed your technology in almost every area that matters. Do you know why?" "No, my people have spent 100 years trying to understand humans, and I have learned that we understand nothing." Dr. Park spoke next, his voice calm and academic. "Human civilization advances through crisis. When we face challenges, we adapt, we change, we grow. Your species observed us during one of our most chaotic periods when we were tearing ourselves apart with wars and environmental destruction. What you did not see was what came after. We unified, we focused. We looked at the stars and decided we would not be victims. But you knew we were coming. Why did you not strike first? You could have destroyed our observation probes. You could have attacked our forward bases. You chose to wait." President answered with a question of his own. "Commander, why did your people want to conquer Earth?" Hesitated. The answer seemed obvious, but he suspected the humans already knew something he did not. "Resources, territory, to expand our empire. That is what strong species do." "Is it? Or is that simply what your species has always done because you never imagined another way?" The question hung in the air, had never considered it. Expansion was natural. Conquest was natural. The strong took from the weak. That was the law of the universe. But the humans had proven themselves stronger, and they had chosen not to take. They had trapped his fleet, captured his soldiers, and could easily destroy his entire civilization. Instead, they sat in a conference room offering him water and conversation. "We do not start wars," Admiral Carter said. "We finish them. If we had attacked your probes, we would have been the aggressors. If we had struck we would have been conquerors. We chose to wait because we believe that strength without restraint is just another form of weakness. I do not understand. I know, that is why we brought you here. President stood and walked to the window, looking out at the forest beyond. Commander, we are going to release you. We are going to give you a ship and let you return to You will carry a message from humanity to the Empire. Stared at him in disbelief. You are setting me free. We are giving you a choice. You can go home and tell your leaders what happened here. Tell them that Earth is not a target. Tell them that any future attack will be met with overwhelming force. Tell them that we have no interest in conquest, but we will destroy anyone who threatens our world or our people. And if I recommend that they send a larger fleet. Admiral Carter answered without hesitation. Then we will destroy that fleet as well, and the fleet after that. And eventually, we will have no choice but to bring the war to your doorstep. But that is not the future we want. We would rather have peace. We would rather trade knowledge and culture with your people than fight endless battles. The choice belongs to you and your leaders. Sub-Commander was brought into the room a moment later. She had been treated well during her captivity, given access to human literature and history, allowed to speak with captured soldiers. Her eyes were different now, noticed. The certainty she had always carried was gone, replaced by something softer and more complicated. I have asked to stay, she said quietly. The humans have offered me a position as a diplomatic liaison. I will work to build understanding between our species. Felt betrayal flash through him, then fade just as quickly. He could not blame her. She had seen the same things he had seen. She had reached a different conclusion, but not a wrong one. The Empire has conquered 12 worlds, he said slowly. We have never faced a species like yours. I do not know how my people will respond to this message. President turned from the window and met his eyes directly. Neither do we. But we know how we will respond, no matter what your leaders decide. We will defend our home, we will protect our people, and we will never become the monsters we fight against. That is the human way. Stood and bowed slightly, a gesture of respect he had never offered to any conquered species. But then, the humans had not been conquered. They had conquered him instead, not through superior violence but through superior character. As he was led away to prepare for his journey home, he thought about the message he would deliver. He thought about the lesson Earth had taught thee in 12 terrible minutes. They had trained for a century to conquer monsters. They had never prepared to face something far more dangerous. A species that could have destroyed them and chose not to.